Alien woman freezes after receiving her first compliment from a human man. The docking clamps hissed as the Ilarion Prime diplomatic station latched onto the incoming shuttle, a Thalshai Class 5 envoy vessel that looked more like a polished glacier with antennae than any sane ship designed for interstellar travel. Kalen Virel stood in the observation bay with a mug of synth coffee in one hand and a biscuit of questionable freshness in the other, both of which were trembling slightly. "You're drooling," the station's AI said in his earpiece. "Or is that awe?" Kalen wiped his mouth. "It's the smell of burning coolant in the docking joints. Again, why do you always assume it's emotional? I've reviewed your last 4 personal logs. You're statistically overdue for a crush." "On a diplomatic emissary?" He laughed. "Sure, I'll fall in love with an emotionless metal woman with ears long enough to pick up galactic radio." "Not love, infatuation. It's faster and usually ends with less paperwork." The shuttle's hatch spiraled open with a faint harmonic chime. From the vapor glass corridor emerged Zhyra of the Thalshai, clad in a form-fitting silver cloak that shimmered with refracted light. Her skin looked like living chrome, subtly rippling with every step. Her long ears curved backward like the wings of a sleek bird, twitching once at the noise of a distant welding torch. Kalen's mug paused halfway to his mouth. "You're leaking again," the AI noted. "Shut up." Zhyra approached, her movements fluid and purposeful, like a creature who'd memorized the concept of grace but found it inefficient. Her eyes, a pale opalescent hue, locked onto Kalen's with the intensity of someone scanning for threats or irregular atmospheric particles. "I am Zhyra," she said. "I am not currently dangerous." "That's comforting," Kalen replied. "I'm Kalen Virel, engineer, mostly harmless." "You emit 0.7 degrees more heat than standard for a human in this quadrant. I get nervous around authority and attractive women." There was a pause, not the awkward kind, more like the system halt of a starship computer encountering an unexpected value. Zhyra blinked, which on her species looked more like a lens aperture narrowing and then refocusing. "Attractive?" "Yeah," Kalen said. "You look incredible." There was a sound, almost imperceptible, a chime, a crack, a shimmer of subatomic confusion. Zhyra stopped moving. Her eyes widened, flickering like a faulty plasma conduit. Her skin began to glow faintly along the edges, color draining from silver to a crystalline frost. Kalen said. "Is that normal?" Her cloak stiffened as if caught in a vacuum seal. Frost spread rapidly along her arms and down her legs, beautiful and horrifying. The floor sensor started to beep. "Initiating temperature lockdown," the AI said. "Did you just emotionally damage an alien diplomat with a compliment?" "I didn't mean to. She is incredible. Well, now she's a popsicle. Congratulations, you broke first contact with your mouth." A trio of security drones zipped in, blinking red and scanning the area for toxins or sabotage. One sprayed thermal mist around Zhyra's feet. It froze midair and shattered. "Do not touch her," waving the drones away. I think I triggered something." "She's not a vending machine. You can't just trigger a meltdown with a sentence." Zhyra's hand twitched. "Not much, just enough to make Kalen freeze himself." "Wait," he whispered. "She's moving." The frost along her skin began to melt in slow ripples, like time deciding it wasn't finished yet. Her joints unsealed with soft clicks. Her ears, once rigid, relaxed. She looked at him. Her voice, when it returned, had dropped half an octave and picked up something unexpected. Breath. "No," she said slowly. "You unlocked something." Kalen blinked. "Should I be honored, or should I call a med team?" "I have not experienced that sensation." "Being complimented?" "No. Being noticed." Her eyes flickered. "Your syntax was inefficient, but sincere." "Inefficient's kind of my brand." The station administrator, a four-eyed bureaucrat who looked perpetually allergic to excitement, stormed into the observation bay with a datapad already glowing red. "What happened?" Sensors show a spontaneous cryo-reaction and an emotional surge that nearly tripped the diplomacy net. "She compliment froze," Kalen said. "I what?" Zhyra raised a hand, surprisingly gentle, and touched the side of her head like rebooting a memory cluster. "I was unprepared for the human ritual of affirmation. It caused a loop." "A loop," the administrator repeated flatly. "It was rather pleasant," Zhyra added. "I need to sit down," the administrator muttered. "You're already sitting." "I need to. Shut up, Kalen." "I think we're having a moment," Kalen said, looking at Zhyra. "Unless I'm about to be incinerated." I don't incinerate people, she replied. That would be emotionally inefficient. Kalen grinned. Good thing I'm already emotionally inefficient, so we balance each other out. Zhyra stared at him. Balance. That's new. The administrator groaned and tapped his datapad like it owed him sleep. I'm flagging this entire interaction as a Category 7 cultural incident. What's that mean? Means the AI gets to write a novella about it and I have to explain to the Galactic Council why a human made a diplomat freeze solid with flirtation. I was being honest, Kalen protested. Worse, the AI said. You were being genuine. That's always the trigger. Zhyra took a careful step forward, watching Kalen with the curiosity of someone seeing light through water for the first time. I would like to schedule another conversation. Kalen blinked. Like a meeting? Like an experiment, he smirked. Will I be graded? Yes, she said. Emotionally, possibly thermally. I am unsure what will happen. Great, Kalen said. Just like my last relationship. As Zhyra exited the bay, her ears twitched again, and something like a smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. The AI whispered, Congratulations! You are now an interstellar case study in unintentional romantic diplomacy. Kalen took a long sip of his coffee. I've always wanted to be a cautionary tale. Zhyra stared at the schematics of the FTL relay like they were an insult. You assembled this with what, improvised hope and panic? Kalen leaned against the console, arms crossed. More like a wrench, 3 meters of synth fiber, and a prayer to the engineering gods of barely functional machinery. She tilted her head. Are they responsive? Only when you're out of duct tape. He handed her a plasma calibrator, which we are, by the way. Zhyra took the tool cautiously, as if it might try to emotionally engage her. Explain again why this device must bend space-time. Because emails take too long and the Galactic Council has zero patience for... Kalen tapped the blinking array with 2 fingers, which only made it beep in protest. We're real-time now. If someone starts an interstellar war, you need to know before dessert. I was informed most wars begin during dessert. Yeah, creme brulee seems to inspire bad decisions. Zhyra made a sound that might have been a scoff or a memory buffer purging. Your species masks discomfort with humor. Absolutely. It's our second most important survival mechanism. What is the first? Running. She returned to the relay with a whisper of movement, her fingers moving with surgical grace. This array is misaligned. Your neutrino resonance is embarrassing. It's a family trait, Kalen said. Neutrinos and sarcasm chronically misaligned. Your maintenance logs are inconsistent. Some are in haiku. That's not inconsistent. That's poetic efficiency. Zhyra paused, her long ears twitching minutely. You titled one ode to a misfiring conduit. It was sparking with character. This is inefficient, so are feelings, but here we are. A quiet hum passed through the relay as Zhyra recalibrated the thermal channels, her fingertips glowing faintly as her biometal skin interfaced with the control panel. The machine responded with a deep, compliant purr. Kalen watched from a safe distance. Do you always fix things with touch? He asked. My physiology accelerates integration with complex systems. I bet you're popular at parties. We do not have parties. Well, there's your problem right there. Zhyra stopped, slowly turned, and studied him with the analytical intensity of someone trying to decide if he was a joke, a threat, or a bug in the simulation. You make me unstable. Good unstable or fire extinguisher unstable. I experience anomalies in my response systems when you are near. She frowned at the word, like it didn't fit correctly in her vocal processor. Kalen raised an eyebrow. You sure that's not a power fluctuation? I ran diagnostics. 14 times. No anomalies except in proximity to your voice patterns. So my voice breaks aliens now. Neat. He grabbed a tool and joined her by the panel. Look, if this is going to keep happening, maybe we should calibrate. Together, figure out your emotional bandwidth. She blinked. You want to synchronize? Yeah, science style. Controlled experiments. Maybe some charts. Charts are comforting. Then we'll make emotional bar graphs. A pause. You would do this? Even if I loop again? Kalen tapped her wrist gently. It rang like warm glass. Zhyra, I've dated humans. You freezing solid is still less dramatic than an ex deleting my entire music library. I have read of such betrayals. They were Taylor Swift songs, Zhyra. Taylor Swift. She nodded solemnly. That is indeed unjust. The relay chimed completion. Data began flowing in clean lines across the station's quantum lattice. Somewhere above them, the administrator shouted with joy, then immediately blamed himself for being seen enjoying something. Kalen stood back. System. We make a good team. You are chaotic, but effective. That's going on my tombstone. Human tombstones are inefficient, Zhyra noted. We digitize our death summaries. Sounds less poetic? It saves space. I'm still naming your obituary file She Who Melted Time. Zhyra looked at him, ears flicking in amusement. You are not standard. Thank you. That was not entirely complimentary. You'll get there. There was a long moment, quiet except for the relay's rhythm and the distant sound of someone being scolded over intercom for improper towel folding in hydrosanitation. Zhyra's voice softened. I would like to continue this experiment. Me too? And if I freeze again, I'll get you a thermal blanket and compliment you in Morse code. She smiled, this time undeniably. A small curve of lip, subtle but impossible to miss. You are more statistically improbable than I expected. I aim to confuse and delight, and occasionally repair neutrino relays with poetry. Hey, whatever works. As they walked down the corridor together, Kalen risked brushing his shoulder against hers. No freeze, no sparks, just the faintest hum of something, like a machine warming up for something entirely untested. Behind them, the relay sparked one final time, then settled into a soft, steady glow. The station's central dome echoed with the soft click of Kalen's boots as he paced the length of the diplomatic atrium, stopping only to argue with the potted translator Vine that had, in a recent firmware update, decided it could only speak in legal metaphors. I'm not breaching any interspecies protocol, he insisted, jabbing a finger at the flickering leaves. You are a liability in thermal proximity, the plant intoned in a slow courtroom drawl. I recommend emotional quarantine and 3 weeks of silence. Kalen turned and nearly walked into Zhyra, who stood still as a pillar behind him, long ears angled forward in what he now knew was the Thalshai equivalent of curiosity. You were speaking to foliage. It was speaking legalese first. It accused you of interspecies misconduct. Technically, it accused me of unregulated intimacy through informal idioms, which is even worse. Zhyra tilted her head. Do your plants often practice law? Only on Tuesdays. Before she could respond, a sharp tone pierced the atrium. 3 quick pulses followed by the dreaded deep warble of a Priority 1 arrival. Every sentient in the dome stiffened. Oh no, Kalen muttered. Please tell me that's a pizza drone. It is not, the station AI confirmed grimly. High Chancellor Voron of the Thalshai has arrived. Kalen turned to Zhyra, who did not move, but whose skin rippled in a wave of faint silver blue, a subconscious defense pattern. You okay? I will recalibrate. Emotion is discouraged in his presence. Kalen squinted. Wait, you have to recalibrate just to talk to this guy? He prefers his envoys emotionally neutral, like stone or bureaucracy. So, the opposite of me. Zhyra's eyes met his. Precisely. The Chancellor emerged like a mathematical error given form. Tall, draped in segmented armor that looked like it had been harvested from a frozen moon, eyes like laser-cut quartz, mouth carved in disapproval. He swept into the atrium, flanked by 2 aides whose only expressions were urgent and mildly contemptuous. Zhyra stepped forward and dropped into the stiff bow of her species, though a tremor betrayed her. Envoy Zhyra, the Chancellor said, voice echoing like compressed gravity. I have reviewed your recent transmissions. They are concerning. I have maintained all official protocols, not in tone, not in content, his gaze flicked to Kalen, and certainly not in company. Kalen raised his hand. Hi, I'm the emotional contagion. Unfortunate, the Chancellor said. Still better than being a spreadsheet in armor. The Chancellor didn't blink. Your influence has introduced chaos into a system designed for order. Envoy Zhyra is exhibiting irregular neurological patterns. She's been laughing at my jokes. Precisely my point. Zhyra's voice remained level. I request formal permission to continue my current diplomatic integration schedule. No protocols have been broken. No, Voron said. We will initiate reset procedures immediately. There was a collective silence that hummed like a short circuit through everyone present. Zhyra flinched. Kalen stepped in front of her before he realized he'd moved. You can't just wipe her personality. It is not a wipe, it is a recalibration. Same difference. You're deleting the version of her that feels, that smiles, that tells me neutrino poetry is inefficient. Zhyra blinked. It is inefficient. Still, you said it with affection. The The Chancellor looked at Zhyra. Has this integration corrupted your primary logic array? It has evolved. Vorin gestured, and one of his aides activated a crystalline disk that floated between them. Pulses of energy spread through the dome, matching Zhyra's own biofrequency. Her skin began to glow, then dim. Her posture shifted, more rigid, less present. "Stop it," Kalen shouted. "You're freezing her from the inside." "She will be restored," the aide said. "To what?" Kalen moved to the console, fingers flying across the interface. "Zhyra, if you can hear me, listen to my voice. This isn't protocol anymore. This is erasure." She twitched. "I'll talk about flux compensators," he added quickly, "or microcoil misalignment, whatever keeps you from freezing." She looked at him just barely. "Say the words." "What?" "The first ones." He swallowed. "You look incredible." The pulse wavered. The disc shuddered and cracked. Zhyra's glow returned, brighter, less regulated, and then warm. Her ears snapped forward. Her fingers twitched. The connection cut with a sonic pop that knocked one of the aides backward into a snack drone, which exploded in a rain of wasabi puffs. The Chancellor stared. "You broke the sync," he said. "She broke it," Kalen replied, "because she wanted to." Zhyra stepped forward, no longer stiff, no longer dimmed. "You do not own my configuration. You are Thalshai. I am becoming." The Chancellor turned on his heel and stormed out, one aide limping after him and the other muttering legal threats to the wasabi-drenched drone. The atrium slowly returned to motion. The translator Vine whispered, "Emotional damages pending." Kalen exhaled. "Well, that was subtle." Zhyra looked at him, eyes gleaming. "I froze halfway through that." "I noticed. You brought me back. Technically, the wasabi puff drone helped." She reached out, touched his hand, not with uncertainty this time, but intention. "I believe you are now embedded in my internal registry." "Romantic," Kalen said. "I'm going to embroider that on a pillow." Zhyra smiled. "We should test first." "Great. Let's see what happens when I compliment your ears next." Her ears twitched. "They are my least logical feature. They're my favorite." Her skin shimmered. "No freeze." "Progress," she said. "Warmth," he replied. Zhyra sat cross-legged on the floor of the engineering bay, delicately poking a quantum flux core with a thin, insulated stylus, while Kalen watched from a safe, responsible distance behind a shield panel labeled in 3 languages. "Danger high voltage," "Caution, entropic reversal zone," and "Do not feed the engineer." "You're sure this won't trigger a station-wide time hiccup?" Kalen asked, holding a mug of anti-radiation tea that glowed a little too enthusiastically. "I am 93% confident." "That's not exactly bedtime story levels of comfort. I also improved the safety margin by adding a humor field buffer." "You what?" She tapped the flux core. It emitted a sound suspiciously similar to a hiccup and a rubber duck. "The system now responds to emotional flux with absurd audio cues to neutralize panic." "You built a laugh track into our fusion core." "I have studied your species. Humor prevents collapse." Kalen sipped his tea, eyeing the flickering plasma stream that snaked around the core like a caffeinated dragon. "If I die laughing, I expect a statue. I will ensure it includes your most inefficient tool." "My laser screwdriver?" "No, your mouth." The core beeped 3 times, burped out a tiny holographic llama, and then stabilized. "That's actually working?" "The anomaly responded to stimulus. Your complement restructured my internal schema. I hypothesize that emotion is a valid data modifier." "Are you telling me that compliments are now part of our engineering toolkit?" She nodded. "Verbal affection may enhance systemic performance." Kalen turned to the console. "Well then, let's flirt this station into peak condition." Elsewhere, the station AI flagged this statement with a polite suggestion for supervision. As the day progressed, Zhyra and Kalen moved through systems once considered volatile, stabilizing them with synchronized recalibration and what Zhyra referred to as positive emotional input bursts. Kalen called them verbal snacks. He had a whole list. "You're the most elegant logic anomaly I've ever met." Zhyra's skin took on a warmer hue. "System integrity improved by 4.3%. Your ears are like perfect signal amplifiers from a better dimension. Communications latency just halved. You once froze solid after a compliment. Now you melt hardware with a glance. The food replicator just started printing actual croissants." They stood in the data nexus by evening, surrounded by a gentle hum of systems operating at unprecedented efficiency. Zhyra leaned slightly against the main console, her posture no longer rigid, her movement fluid, adaptive. "You've changed since the relay incident," Kalen said. "You're not just warming up, you're evolving. I experience recursive emotional states now. They loop. Like, you're falling into a feedback cycle? Into you." Kalen blinked. "Well, that's not terrifying at all." She reached for his hand, this time without hesitation. "I have integrated uncertainty as a valid algorithm. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me while touching a plasma conduit." Before Zhyra could reply, a sharp series of alerts rippled through the system. The AI spoke up, its voice unusually tense. "Priority code Theta initiated. External vessel approaching without transponder. Trajectory suggests intentional stealth." Kalen spun to the nearest screen. "Please tell me that's a diplomatic envoy with terrible manners." The display revealed a sleek, angular ship trailing distortion wakes, an infiltration cruiser, cloaked in the quantum shadows used by the corporate scavenger factions. Zhyra's tone shifted. "That model is banned in Thalshai sectors. Their crew will seek high-value tech, biomechanical interfaces especially." "They're coming for you," she straightened, "and your flux core." Kalen snapped open the emergency panel. "Okay, plan. I'll stall them with bad jokes, you freeze time, we escape through the waste tunnel. That tunnel leads to the scent recycling unit. Then they'll never follow us." The infiltration cruiser docked like a spider laying claim to a web. Shadows moved beyond the station's outer hull. Kalen and Zhyra raced through the corridor toward the main entrance hatch, dodging half-sleeping maintenance drones and a floor polisher that had become self-aware but deeply insecure. Kalen skidded to a halt near the docking bay. "I don't suppose you can freeze them all with a compliment?" "I would need to compliment them sincerely." "Yeah, no, not gonna happen." The outer airlock hissed open. 3 intruders in sleek obsidian armor stepped inside, plasma rifles raised. They spoke in unison through vocode. "Surrender your synthetic integrated units and any relational data." Zhyra stepped forward calmly. "You cannot quantify connection." "Incorrect. Emotional bonds are high-value programming." Kalen stepped beside her. "Wow, that's the creepiest Valentine's Day card I've ever heard." The leader aimed his weapon. "You will be extracted." Zhyra's eyes flared. "No." She raised her hands and the temperature in the bay dropped instantly. Not to lethal levels yet, but enough to fog breath, stiffen armor, and make every molecule tremble. Her biometal skin flashed crystalline, not from shock this time, but from will. "You threatened what I now protect." The lead scavenger faltered. "Your systems are unstable." "No, they are alive." The cold swept forward, fractal tendrils creeping over the intruder's weapons. Kalen winced as frost shimmered across the walls. "Okay, just a suggestion, but maybe don't ice the entire airlock? I am practicing moderation." The scavengers stumbled back, slipping on rapidly forming frost. One dropped his weapon, another fled, the leader remained. "You are no longer a standard envoy." Zhyra stepped forward. "Neither am I standard. I am connected." Kalen tossed the nearest scavenger a fried circuit board. "Tell your friends that if they come back, we'll charge admission." The last scavenger retreated. The docking hatch sealed with a heavy clang. Silence returned, broken only by the sound of systems rebooting and Kalen muttering, "Well, that was romantic in a terrifying ice witch sort of way." Zhyra turned, still crystalline but pulsing with heat. "I retained control, this time." Kalen touched her arm gently. "And you froze them, not yourself." "I redefined my freeze response." "I call that growth." She nodded. "You continue to cause disruptive upgrades." He smiled. "Let's make it a series." Kalen stood in the center of the calibration chamber, holding a tangle of glowing fiber optic cabling that looked suspiciously like it was judging him. He sighed and poked. "You know, for something that's supposed to manage gravitational harmonics, you've got the emotional maturity of a toast slicer." The cable sparked once and went limp. Behind him, Zhyra approached with quiet precision, long ears angled slightly upward, a signal Kalen now recognized as amused curiosity, or maybe mild concern for his survival. "I believe you're attempting a level 5 spatial braid with a level 2 confidence rating. That obvious?" "You're humming the theme song to Exploding Shuttles, the series." Kalen dropped the cable. "Okay, I surrender. Your turn." Zhyra stepped forward and with 3 elegant movements and 1 soft hum of resonance restored the braid to perfect equilibrium. The chamber pulsed in acknowledgement. Above them, the station's power core cycled to peak stability. Show off, Kalen muttered. Zhyra raised one brow. I have accessed pride. Well, don't go full ego. One compliment and you used to hard freeze. Now you're fixing multi-dimensional tangles while flirting. I have evolved. No kidding. A soft chime interrupted them, followed by the AI's voice. Incoming diplomatic communique. Origin, Thalshai High Command. Encryption level, glacial. Zhyra exhaled. They are likely here to reassess my programming, or repossess it. Kalen frowned. They're not still thinking of factory resetting you, are they? You've practically saved this entire station. Twice, and made the food printer self-aware. It now refuses to replicate soup unless emotionally motivated. See, you're changing the future, one sentient minestrone at a time. Zhyra turned to the console. The transmission unfolded as a holographic projection of the Thalshai Chancellor, Vorin again looking like someone who'd just bitten into a lemon and discovered it had opinions. Envoy Zhyra, we have reviewed your recent performance metrics. Your deviation patterns have exceeded predictive thresholds by 712%. Zhyra remained still. I am aware. You destabilized an enemy cruiser using emotional resonance. You broadcast synchronized complement frequencies across the station network. It improved efficiency. You kissed the human. Kalen coughed. That was technically a data exchange, with tongue. Vorin's frown deepened. You are no longer a suitable representative for Thalshai logic. Then I resign, Zhyra said simply. There was silence. Even the AI paused its background hum. You what? Kalen asked, blinking. I do not wish to return to cold function. I wish to feel, to choose, to learn illogical things with you. Like flirting with flux capacitors? Or enjoying your asymmetrical face? Kalen blinked. That's kind of sweet, in a weird, insulty way. The Chancellor's projection remained unreadable. This action will sever your tether. You will no longer receive updates, backup arrays, or structural guidance. Zhyra glanced at Kalen. I have new guidance. Vorin flickered off the channel. The AI whispered, Diplomatic tether deactivated. Emotional tether firmly active. Kalen turned. So you're staying? Zhyra nodded. If you will tolerate my continued presence. Zhyra, I made Soup laugh. Of course I will. The weeks that followed were quieter, but not simpler. With her Thalshai designation removed, Zhyra registered as a neutral entity, officially unaligned. Unofficially, Kalen's terrifyingly competent partner in both engineering and unexpected station politics. They rebuilt systems together. They trained the translator Vine to speak in haiku. They taught the self-aware snack drone ethics by arguing over whether or not it should eat its own cheese sticks. Zhyra learned sarcasm. Kalen learned patience. The station thrived. One day, as they hovered in the observation deck watching a minor nova ripple against the edge of known space, Zhyra rested her hand lightly over Kalen's. I do not freeze anymore. You've thawed remarkably well. I now understand your need to joke in moments of gravity. It's my defense mechanism, like how you freeze except I spout nonsense and hope nobody explodes. Your nonsense has become structurally important to me. He squeezed her hand. I've changed too, you know. I used to fix things because they were broken. Now I fix things because they matter. You matter. There was a soft sound, almost like a harmonic sigh, as the Nova's light bent across the window. Somewhere down the hall, the food printer requested a pep talk. The AI muttered romantic poetry in binary. The station breathed, not perfectly, but warmly. Kalen looked over. So what happens now? Zhyra leaned against him. Now we discover. Together? With humor and a good wrench. Deal.